I got a call after we opened the ranch, and Bally said, Wayne, we want you to write a show.
Wayne Newton was a Las Vegas legend for more than 60 years. Every time he took the stage, audiences were amazed by his smooth voice. Still, behind the glamour were secrets, rumors, and things Newton never wanted the world to know. At 82, he finally opened up to confirm the rumors. The answers are finally here and may not be what you expected. Keep watching for these revelations. The secrets he kept for decades. Wayne Newton has been known as Mr. Las Vegas for years, mainly because he sold out performances and tickets and had unmissable spots on the Strip. He was the symbol of showbiz magic, a machine that could deliver powerful vocals and a real entertainer. However, for those who have witnessed him perform lately, things have changed. His shows used to have audiences who came in expecting a night full of good music, humor, and nostalgia. He would sing, joke, and play multiple instruments. He was a man who repeatedly proved that he was one of Vegas's favorite entertainers for a reason. People, including those who were not die-hard fans, still had to admit that he brought so much energy to the stage. His concerts were more than just concerts. They were events to showcase a legend himself. So, the excitement was entirely justifiable when they heard he was going to host another show in Tropicana. It was the last chance for longtime admirers to see the man they had liked over the decades. Some just wanted to say they had seen Mr. Las Vegas before he closed for good. The nostalgia and anticipation were there, and when the curtain opened, the reality was something nobody had expected. It was no secret. Wayne Newton could not sing anymore. The powerful voice had grown quiet, or at least something that sounded like a familiar pitch. Prior songs that had defined his career were now almost whispered, cracked, and sung through the microphone. Toward the end of the performance, the audience exchanged uneasy glances, wondering if there would be a moment of redemption. Yet, it never came. Instead of a concert, it leaned on memories. Past performances were reenacted in video clips and played back on a screen as he sat beside them, tapping along, but hardly singing. When he did try to sing, his voice was overwhelmed by the backup singing, which carried most of the melody. Jokes did not connect. Conversations were hard to follow, and what was supposed to be a celebration of his career rightfully played out more like a painful reminder of his past performances. I don't dislike Wayne Newton. I just think he should know when he's not providing a fitting service in return for people's hard-earned cash. I feel like I was ripped off. A comment read, "Whatever happened to Wayne Newton? How was the world's most prominent legend reduced to reenacting old music clips for his concert? Let's find out." A career built on consistency. No one had a voice like Wayne Newton's. It was high-pitched and carried him through the early years of his career, even when it showed little signs of deepening until the 1970s and 80s. However, his voice wasn't the only thing that set him apart. Once Elvis Presley passed on and the Rat Pack went out of focus in Las Vegas, Newton became the town's biggest entertainer. He wasn't just a Vegas performer because of his voice. He was popular because people believed in him. He and his brother immediately put in the work, performing 6 shows a night, 6 days a week, at the Flamingo for 5 years from the get-go. Newton soon found out that the applause he got was mostly from the crowd, and that he had to shape each performance so that it was what the crowd wanted to hear. Newton was born Carson Wayne Newton in Norfolk, Virginia, to Patrick Newton and Evelyn Marie Smith. While he was a child, his family moved to Newark, Ohio. He began singing with his older brother Jerry in local clubs, theaters, and fairs. However, due to Newton's severe asthma, his family moved to Phoenix in 1952 at his doctor's suggestion. Soon after arriving in Phoenix, the brothers performed in a local television talent show, Lou King Rangers, and won. As a result, the owner of Cool TV, Tom Chauncey, who also televised the talent show, gave the brothers their television show, Rascals in Rhythm, and mentored them. The brothers, as the Rascals in Rhythm, appeared with the Grand Ole Opry road shows and on ABC TV's Ozark Jubilee, performed in front of then-President Dwight D. Eisenhower, auditioned. After that, they had an unsuccessful audition for Ted Mack's original amateur hour. Newton's big break came in an unanticipated way in 1962. He did Danny Boy for Jackie Gleason in Phoenix, and was so impressed with Gleason that he said to Newton, "Don't go on any other television show before you go on mine." True to his word, Gleason brought Newton onto the Jackie Gleason Show on the 29th of September 1962. That one performance became 12 appearances in the next 2 years, and in the end, it became Newton's first true taste of national fame. Shortly after this, he also landed the role of Andy, the baby-faced ranch hand on Bonanza. While in front of a camera on set, Newton met with Elvis Presley, who was working nearby. At first it was a meeting, but then it became a friendship that should have lasted a lifetime. Gleason wasn't the only star who saw potential in Newton. That year, Gleason got Newton to play at the legendary Copacabana, where he came in contact with Bobby Darin. Darin was already a music icon who also thought Newton was as good, and he agreed to produce his records. When Darin was told to record Danke Schoen, he took an unexpected action and gave the song to Newton, who he felt would have a hit, and he was right. Danke Schoen climbed to number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1963. Throughout his growth as an entertainer and artist, entertainment legends hailed Newton as he climbed even higher and higher. Many other artists became his supporters and helped him. These famous people were the likes of Lucille Ball, Danny Thomas, George Burns, and Jack Benny. Jack Benny, in particular, had seen Newton perform in Sydney, Australia, and then brought him to open for his show at Harrah's Reno. He was so impressed that Newton opened for his Las Vegas act, and then, later on, he brought Newton to the Jack Benny program, where he performed for 5 years. After that job ended, Newton was offered a second opening act position at the Flamingo, but he spotted a job opening, and right there, he decided to ask for his headlining act instead. Quite obviously, Hollywood didn't overlook Newton's talents. He did an episode of The Lucy Show in 1965, playing a country boy who sang to animals. Newton was so good at that role that when CBS saw it, they were so impressed that they offered him a TV series based on his character. Before he could accept, Lucille Ball stopped him. "Unless you want to be this country boy for the rest of your life, turn this series down." Turning down the show may have been a hard decision for Newton, but he was able to build a career on his terms. His prime saw him performing at some of the most iconic venues on the Strip, such as the Desert Inn, the Frontier, and Sands Hotel and Casino. Crowds came out to see him night after night, and the marquees filled with his name. While some other performers shortened their sets, Newton's shows averaged 3 hours or more. From the first note to the final bow, he gave the audience everything he had and held their attention. He was able to draw a crowd like no one else could. They called him the biggest moneymaker in the history of Vegas, topping legends such as Elvis and Sinatra. Newton wasn't just a showman, he was also a recording artist. His 1972 songs "Daddy, Don't You Walk So Fast" became a smash, selling over 1 million copies and earning a gold certification. It reached number 4 in the United States and number 1 in Canada and Australia. He then made his television debut 3 years later, performing alongside Glenn Campbell in a special for the British Broadcasting Company, Glenn Campbell Live in London. Newton's fame grew beyond music and entertainment at the end of the 1980s. Soon, his friendship with President Ronald Reagan put him in the middle of another unexpected controversy. At the time, concerts were typically held at the National Mall every year, and massive crowds would show up. Bands like the Beach Boys and the Grassroots were the headliners. In 1983, however, Reagan's Secretary of the Interior, James G. Watt, banned rock bands from performing as they were seen to make the wrong element glamorous and encourage substance use. Instead, it was decided to honor Newton at the event. He stepped onto the stage on the 4th of July, 1983, at the National Mall. Some cheered him on when he climbed the stage, while others booed him. Some welcomed him as a patriotic performer, but to others, he was a symbol of interference in what had always been a music-filled celebration. By the late 1980s, Wayne Newton had been known worldwide as the King of Las Vegas. Subsequently, on the 23rd of May, 1989, he upped his game considerably. Wayne Newton's Live in Concert was broadcast as a pay-per-view event to allow audiences at home a chance to see the magic on a live stage show. Newton had something else in mind. Fans may have expected to hear his signature songs, such as Danke Schoen and Red Roses for a Blue Lady. Instead, he ended the show with a dramatic rendition of MacArthur Park, although the addition of artificial rain on stage made for a breathtaking conclusion. In 1992, Newton became the subject of mystery in the music industry when his Elvis-inspired song, The Letter, topped the Cashbox pop and country charts. It became the highest achievement for an artist who had spent many years in the business. However, something was off. The Letter never appeared on Billboard's Hot 100, Adult Contemporary, or any bubbling underchart. Neither radio and records listed the song. Never before had it been heard that a song reached #1 on Cashbox without even making it to the Billboard chart. The controversy only buttressed the contention behind Newton's career. These speculations, however, did not stop him from doing what he was good at. He then expanded his reach past his usual venues in the 1980s, performing at Bally's, Caesars Palace, and MGM Grand Las Vegas. In 1994, he hit another milestone when he performed his $25,000 show in Las Vegas. In 1999, he went one step further by signing a 10-year deal with Stardust. Under the contract, he was the casino's headliner in residence, where he performed for 40 weeks a year and 6 nights a week in a showroom named after him. With Newton's commitment, this was the first of its kind, and it showed that he was fully invested in the Vegas stage. However, as they say, nothing lasts forever. The contract between Stardust and Newton ended amicably when Stardust was getting ready for demolition in 2005. On the 20th of April that same year, he took the final step onto the Stardust stage and gave a performance that may be tagged as the celebration of an era. That summer, he made no effort to slow down. He returned to the stage in Las Vegas, taking a 30-day show residency at the Las Vegas Hilton, proving once again that success doesn't just come to an end. As the year 2000 rolled in, Wayne was more than willing to take on more significant responsibilities as an entertainer and as the face of the city itself. In 2005, he turned to television with The Entertainer on E! Channel. The show put the best aspiring artists in the spotlight as they were required to win to gain a spot in his act, plus a headlining act of their own for a year. 2 years later, Newton brought the same energy to the NBA All-Star Weekend in Las Vegas, where he sang Elvis Presley's Viva Las Vegas during the player introductions. He traded the stage for the dance floor in the same year when he joined Dancing with the Stars' two-time dance partner, champion Cheryl Burke. While he was the third contestant to be eliminated, he also made history as the first guest to appear on The Price is Right under its new host, Drew Carey. Newton unveiled his latest show, Once Before I Go, 2009, at the Tropicana. He got to rest after decades of near-constant performance, stopping for 5 years after 2010 to spend time with his family and recover his voice. When he returned in 2016 on his terms, he brought Up Close and Personal to Bally's Hotel. By the year 2019, he had played over 30,000 shows in the Las Vegas Strip. To celebrate this feat, he launched Mr. Las Vegas, a unique residency at Caesars Palace that honored his 6 decades on the stage. It was here when Caesars was built. This hotel, for me, has always represented the flagship of the Strip, Newton said when he reflected on how far he had come. Even during the COVID-19 pandemic, Wayne Newton was still a force to be reckoned with. He starred in Caesars entertainment commercials, urging the guests to return as soon as the resort started opening again. By 2022, he became a notable figure in the sports world when he appeared to announce the Las Vegas Raiders' third-round draft pick during the NFL Draft in Las Vegas alongside Hall of Fame running back Marcus Allen. However, beyond his career as an entertainer, Wayne has had quite a life just behind the scenes. Life beyond the scenes of entertainment. There was more to Wayne Newton's life than the spotlight. In 1968, he married Elaine Okamura, and in 1976, they had a daughter, Erin. After 17 years of being together, they divorced in 1985. In 1994, 10 years after his divorce, Newton found love with Kathleen McCrone, a North Olmsted, Ohio lawyer. By 2002, the couple had given birth to a daughter. As mentioned earlier, Newton's influence stretched beyond entertainment. At one point, he was considered a possible U.S. Senate candidate. Soon after, Nevada's former Republican state chairman Frank Fahrenkopf proposed the idea, but Newton opted not to run. However, it was nonetheless undeniable that he left his mark on Nevada. In honor of his contribution, a street near Harry Reid International Airport was named Wayne Newton Boulevard, and then he was inducted into the Gaming Hall of Fame in 2000. In addition, his interests also brought him to the world of advocacy. In 2010, he testified before the Virginia House of Delegates to convince the state to recognize the Patawomic Indian tribe of Virginia. Newton believed his father and grandfather were of Patawomic ancestry, and he decided to serve as a means of raising awareness of his tribe's history and the political fight for recognition. Newton's most fantastic hobby outside of music was horses. 002 to 007. He once said he loved music and horses from childhood and couldn't decide which he loved more. Perhaps his love for horses led him to create one of the country's most famous Arabian horse breeding programs. By 2014, his Casa de Shenandoah Ranch became home to Aramis Arabians, the breeding operation he had created, and had foaled over 700 foals and produced nearly 100 champions. Newton's love for horses started when he was a child. Growing up, he spent time on his uncle's farm and fell in love with the animals. By 6th grade, he was so determined to have his own horse that he bought a foal by selling his bicycle and his parents' camera. Initially, he owned thoroughbreds and American quarter horses. However, he became interested in the Arabian breed when he purchased the champion stallion Aramis, the same horse that later inspired the name of his ranch. In 1969, Newton worked with breeder and television station owner Tom Chauncey to buy Nabor, an exceptional stallion that had come to Anne McCormick's estate. The price? They paid $150,000, which at the time was the highest price ever paid for an Arabian horse at auction. That investment paid off. Soon after, Newton partnered with other Arabian breeders to purchase Aramis, Nabor's offspring, and by 1972, Newton owned the great horse. He even obtained some of the highest honors because of his passion for Arabian horses. In 1996, the Arabian Professional and Amateur Horsemen's Association awarded him Breeder of the Year. 10 years later, in 2007, he accepted the prestigious Arabian Horse Breeders Alliance Lifetime Achievement Award at the first-ever Arabian Breeders' World Cup in Las Vegas. However, Newton wasn't just involved on the surface level of these things. He oversaw his foaling season and even took part in the breeding, deciding which to keep and which to sell. However, this made him different from others and showed that his love for horses was more than a hobby. He also featured in a star-studded lineup in 1996, which included Dolly Parton and Heidi Newfield in making a special single, You Can't Say Love Enough, dedicated to raising funds for diabetes research. At about the same time, the Wayne Newton Research Grant, awarded by the American Diabetes Association, was created. Since then, Jose F. Caro and Peter J. Roach, among others, have received the grant to continue advancing treatment and understanding of diabetes. In 2001, Newton took on even another philanthropy role when he became chairman of the United Services Organization Celebrity Circle in the place of Bob Hope. This organization provided entertainment and support for the United States military service members and their families. There was certainly no doubt in Newton's commitment to the troops, and he took a large role in ensuring the troops stationed around the world had moments of joy brought to them through live performances and outreach programs. Newton was also known for giving back to his community. In 2007, he was appointed Grand Marshal of the 80th Annual Shenandoah Apple Blossom Festival in Winchester, Virginia. He was so honored by the invite that he canceled a sold-out show just to attend the festival. In 2008, he was also given the Woodrow Wilson Award for Public Service for his dedication to public service. Beyond these achievements and success stories, Newton encountered some issues over the years. Struggles within past years. Sometimes success comes with problems that just may well be under our control. Newton became part owner of the Aladdin Hotel in Las Vegas between 1980 and 1982. It was a huge success, but it soon became a legal hassle. The lawsuits and financial struggles that followed prevented him from getting his attempted full purchase of the hotel. Then, the National Broadcasting Company ran a story alleging that Newton had teamed up with the mafia to purchase Aladdin. The legal battle was too much for Newton, so he sued the network for libel. In 1992, Newton filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, stating the $20 million debt. This debt was from the lawsuit against National Broadcasting Company, including a $341 million IRS tax lien. However, by 1999, he had been able to right the ship financially. Unfortunately, as the year 2000 rolled by, money troubles returned. The IRS sued Newton and his wife in August 2005 on the claim that they owed the federal government more than $1.8 million in taxes and penalties. However, one of Newton's tax attorneys contended that the IRS owed Newton money, not vice versa, and the financial legal battles were far from over. Newton got himself in another financial wrinkle, this time in 2009 when he left a $2 million private jet at Oakland County International Airport in Michigan. Initially, Newton had brought the Fokker F-28 there in 2005 for its renovations, and when done, the aircraft was placed in an outside parking lot. He owed $60,000 in unpaid airport parking fees and was also charged $5,000 a month for not extracting the plane from there. Along the way, the plane was barely maintained, and due to a lack of regular engine tests, it became unserviceable over time. The plane was eventually broken apart, transported, and reassembled at Newton's estate. Again, in February 2010, billionaire businessman Bruton Smith sued Newton, alleging that he defaulted on a loan he bought from Bank of America. Smith sought to foreclose on Newton's ranch, Casa de Shenandoah in Las Vegas. Also, at that time, Clark County Sheriff's deputies tried to serve Newton with civil papers and seize his property for a $501,338 judgment in favor of Monty Ward, Newton's former personal pilot. Apparently, Ward had sued Newton back in 2006. Finally, in 2009, Ward won his suit against Newton for unpaid wages. However, when sheriff's deputies visited Newton's estate, Newton's security team didn't allow them to accept the legal papers, and the dispute escalated. While Newton was dealing with this legal battle, he was under a lot of pressure because, at the same time, his daughter Erin lay on the duck bed, which was quite a bummer. She suffered from liver, kidney, and respiratory failure, which led to an emergency cesarean section to deliver her baby boy. The situation only got more terrifying as she fell into a coma. At the time, nobody was sure she would ever wake up. The doctors suspected it was HELLP syndrome, a serious and rare pregnancy condition in which the liver and kidney are attacked. Wayne, who had been performing at the Tropicanas, canceled virtually every February show in St. Louis to be with his daughter. He traveled back and forth just to be with her. Over the weekend, the doctors revealed that Erin was not likely to recover. The heartbreak was overwhelming. His wife, Kathleen McCrone, told Scribb that in the days after the incident, he sobbed all night, unable to accept the loss of his daughter. Surprisingly, Erin woke up and broke the silence when she requested water. Everyone, including the medical team, was stunned. Only days ago, they had told themselves that she would never wake up again. And there she was, overcoming all odds. However, Newton was also at Erin's bedside while drama was brewing at Casa de Shenandoah. At that moment, Monty Ward, his former pilot, had won the $500,000 judgment against him, and officers arrived at his estate to seize his property. Newton's wife, Kathleen, was not home then, and it is believed that a property manager had refused them entry. Things at Tropicana were messy, so he had to chop back from the orchestra, take down the bus prop for his performance, and take out the young actor who played his younger self. However, he was in no mood to cancel Once Before I Go, which was to run through April at the Tiffany. One of Newton's largest legal battles was over his own home. In the late 2000s, a developer and Newton struck a deal to turn Newton's 40-acre estate into a public museum to honor his career. The developer reportedly paid Newton $19.5 million to move out so construction could begin. After this, the developer invested $50 million to launch the project, expecting him to move out. However, Newton did not move out and had actively blocked construction. Thus, it resulted in yet another lawsuit, a drop in the bucket of Newton's legal and financial liabilities. This wasn't the end. Newton found himself in yet another long and messy legal battle that had been waged over his estate, Casa de Shenandoah, until the year 2012, when it seemed like things finally ended. The United States Bankruptcy Court Judge Bruce Markell approved the sale of Newton's estate on the 17th of December that same year. The Las Vegas brokerage firm Nathan & Associates listed the massive property for sale at $58 million. The estate remained in the market for years until 2015, when Newton made a new agreement with Lacy Harbor, a businessman who had bought 70% of the corporation that owned Casa de Shenandoah. Instead of making the estate part of a museum about Newton's career, he and his family were permitted to move back in. The museum was later opened to the public in September 2015. Visitors could not only tour Newton's opulent mansion, but also saw his Arabian horse ranch and the collection of personal memorabilia, such as costumes, cars, and awards from his legendary career. Unfortunately, the museum didn't last long. On the 26th of April, 2018, Casa de Shenandoah held its last public event before it was closed indefinitely for renovations, while Newton's home, which was once meant to be a permanent attraction site, was closed. The future for the estate was once again uncertain. For ages, Wayne Newton, the Mr. Las Vegas, has been Las Vegas entertainment's heart and soul for more than 6 decades. With all the threats, it looked like his career would be overshadowed by lawsuits, tax trouble, and business ventures gone wrong. However, Newton did not back down as he worked tirelessly to rebuild his brand, wealth, and reputation. While there have been setbacks, Newton's affection for entertainment never wavered. He expanded his career out of music, appearing in films such as License to Kill and Vegas Vacation. When he appeared on television and returned to the Las Vegas stage, he finally restored his financial footing. He was back on track by 2025 with an estimated $50 million on his net worth. What can you say about Wayne Newton's life and achievements? Kindly share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our channel. Before you go, explore the other videos displayed on your screen.